3.02 The Renaissance Beyond Italy. Flipped lesson. This goes along with student workbook pages 61 to 65. Lesson Introduction. The Renaissance Beyond Italy. The Renaissance started in Italy, but armies, artists, merchants, and scholars quickly carried art, ideas, goods, and books to Northern Europe. We call this the Northern Renaissance. As Northern Europeans adopted the Renaissance ideas, they shaped them to reflect their own culture and experience. Lesson Objectives. Recognize how Renaissance ideas spread beyond Italy. Identify means by which European monarchs solidified their power. Describe the differences between Renaissance art from Italy and from Northern Europe. Describe Christian humanism. Identify Thomas More and Utopia. And discuss major artists of the Northern Renaissance. Renaissance ideas beyond Italy. Renaissance ideas spread as merchants carried luxury goods from Florence, Venice, and Rome. Merchants and scholars exported classical Greek and Latin texts printed in Venice and contemporary works such as Machiavelli's The Prince and Castiglione's The Book of the Courtier. When armies invaded Italy, they took Italian artwork and ideas home. Merchants who journeyed throughout Europe spread the word about Italian accomplishments. Scholars traveled from monastery to monastery, carrying Italian ideas and books with them. Renaissance ideas. Some of the Renaissance ideas that influenced Northern Europe included new admiration for classics, curiosity about human abilities, and faith in human potential, love of lifelike painting and sculpture, and new principles of architecture. Advisors in the Renaissance. Some of the kings and queens of Northern Europe gained power in several ways. They bribed their rivals with land, threatened them with war, threw them into prison, or simply cut off their heads. This goes along, question number 4 goes along with page 66 in your student guide. So you'll need to flip to page 66 and you can fill these answers in. So you'll see there on the top left is England, and then on the right is the Holy Empire, which is current day Germany and Austria. And then on the bottom left is Spain, and then right there in the middle is France. So in France, King Louis XI came to be known as the Spider King because he was constantly spinning a web of schemes. Louis and later French kings transformed France from a territory of warring states into a strong monarchy. In Spain, King Ferdinand of Aragon and Queen Isabella of Castile joined their kingdoms by marrying each other in 1469. Spain quickly developed the strongest royal government in Europe, as well as the best army. In England, strong kings took charge. Beginning with King Henry VII, a royal family called the Tudors brought the English nobility under control. And then you'll move back to question number 5 for this next one. Power of strong monarchs. And this is basically the same map that was shown on that previous page, just color and a little more detailed. While strong monarchs ruled England, France, and Spain, other parts of Europe remained fragmented. East of France lay the vast Holy Roman Empire, covering the lands known today as Germany and Austria. On the map of Europe, locate the city-states of Mainz, Nuremberg, and Augsburg. You can also look on page 96 in your Human Odyssey reading book for a larger map. The Habsburgs built a powerful dynasty by marrying into other wealthy landowning families. The emperor amassed a large army, and he was not afraid to use it. A duchy. A duchy is a small territory ruled by a duke, is called a duchy. Renaissance ideas and Northern European monarchs. Northern European monarchs became patrons of Renaissance art. King Francis I sought Leonardo da Vinci's advice on architecture. He and his nobles built splendid castles patterned on Italian designs. They collected Italian artwork and sent agents to Italy to buy ancient manuscripts. Francis started a university to study humanist ideas. He also invited artists and scholars to live at his court. Renaissance art in Europe, Northern Italy, differed from Italy. Artists in Northern Europe paid great attention to detail, even if the detail was not flattering. Capturing the ideal was less important than rendering the real in detail. Italian artists often painted frescoes, and they had to work quickly to finish before the plaster dried. But artists such as Jan van Eyck used oil paints that dried slowly, giving artists time to add more detail to their pictures. Jan van Eyck. Jan van Eyck painted on wood panels with colors mixed in oil. He included details of daily life. He also included realistic details that could be interpreted as symbols. Albrecht Dürer. Albrecht Dürer was considered the Leonardo of the North because he traveled to Italy to study the works of the Italian Renaissance artists and then applied what he learned to his own work. He invited humanists and scholars into his home. He wrote about theories of proportions, model cities, and ideal beauty. Wherever he went, he made sketches of everything he saw. Hans Holbein. Hans Holbein's portraits were so popular because he captured accurate likenesses of his subjects, and his portraits seemed to reveal each subject's personality. The Humanist Movement. The Humanist movement in Northern Europe differed from the Humanist movement in Renaissance Italy. Northern humanists were more interested in using ancient texts to further their understanding of Christianity's teachings. The scholars of Northern Europe are known as Christian humanists, and the movement is referred to as Christian humanism. Christian humanists read Plato and Aristotle, but they also mastered ancient Greek and Hebrew, so they could read the Bible as well as the letters of Paul and other church fathers. Christian humanists had concerns about the church. The Christian humanists were worried about the church. The poor training of many priests alarmed them. Some priests couldn't even read. They disapproved of high-ranking church officials who were more concerned with money, power, and land than people's souls. They criticized the bishops and the Pope in Rome for spending fortunes to collect art while neglecting to spread Christ's message. Desiderius Erasmus. Erasmus was a Dutch monk and scholar who criticized the folly of his fellow men, especially his fellow churchmen. In his book, The Praise of Folly, he sharply criticized monks, priests, cardinals, and other officials of the church. He stated, "Those that commonly call themselves the religious and monks are false in both titles, when a great part of them are farthest from religion." The printing press. The printing press played an important role in spreading Renaissance ideas. By 1500, there were more than 1,000 printing presses in Europe. As Europeans produced more and more books, ideas traveled faster than ever before. The printing press made The Praise of Folly widely available. It soon became one of Europe's best-selling books. Thomas More. Thomas More was an English Christian humanist and scholar. In his book Utopia, he highlighted the problems of Europe and compared the life in Europe to life in a perfect but imaginary society governed by reason. The city-states in Utopia. In all of the 54 city-states, the people spoke the same language and practiced the same traditions, customs, and laws. The layout and appearance of the city-states were similar, differing only because of geographical location or topography. When one city had an agricultural surplus, it exported to its neighbors. The streets were well laid out for traffic and protected against the winds. Every house had a front door that opened on a street and a back door that opened onto a garden. No doors could be locked. There was no private spacing. Every 10 years, the people would exchange homes. More wrote, "No city has any desire to extend its territory, for they consider themselves the tenants rather than the masters of what they hold." What does this mean? Cities did not attempt to expand their boundaries. They thought of the surrounding areas as land to be worked rather than as private property to be owned. Utopia. The government in Utopia. Each year, groups of 30 families chose an official called a Sigfregat. The whole body of Sigfregrants appointed a governor by secret ballot. Important issues were brought before them, and after the families were informed, they reported their decisions to the Senate. Clothing. The style of clothing was the same throughout the island and stayed the same through the centuries. There were different clothes for males and females, as well as for singles and married couples. The clothes were plain and functional. The clothes were both for heat and for cold. Feelings about war. They hated war and tried to avoid it at all costs. As a last resort, utopians would fight to protect themselves from other rulers. Few priests. Having only 13 priests in each city was a means of keeping up respect for the office. Utopians did not believe many people were moral or just enough to fulfill the priestly role, so there were not many priests. And then questions 24 through 29 on your student guide are opinion questions. So these are optional questions that you may discuss with your learning coach. You may fill in as needed. Utopia is on the horizon. I move 2 steps closer, it moves 2 steps further away. I walk another 10 steps, and the horizon runs 10 steps further away. As much as I walk, I'll never reach it. So what's the point of utopia? The point is to keep walking. And we've come to the end of our flip video lesson. Thank you for joining me today.